Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. I'm going to be quick. I am recording an intro to my video, which will have its own intro, but I intended to do one video for this large collection that I bought. I bought a complete 102 card PSA graded base set first edition, $24,400. The video that you're going to see today will be a 35-minute video that only goes over the spreadsheet that you see when we cut to the intro of the intended video. I will post Friday the remaining 11 and a half minutes where I do the overhead view and I go through the actual cards. So for anyone who wants to skip out on the spreadsheet, long form discussion on how I came up with what I bid, what I intend to list the cards for, a bit of discussion on selling an entire lot like that versus selling cards individually. If you don't want to go through that discussion and you just want to see the cards, you might not want to watch this video. So I just wanted to put this out in front before you watch an entire 35-minute video and end up frustrated that you don't see any cards. That will come on Friday, and it will be a shorter 11-minute video. That's all I have for now, so I will catch you later in a few seconds when I jump to the spreadsheet portion of the video. Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. Up front, I think this is going to be a fairly long video, but I hope it will be interesting for everyone. I'm going to touch on quite a few different topics here as I go over this large collection that I bought. You're going to see a lot of stuff on screen right now. The spreadsheet that my face is in the corner of. I'm sure you'll be glancing through the numbers, but I'll get into, I guess I'll give you kind of a table of contents that we're going to work through, potentially a multi-video recording as I progress through the resale of this collection. But anybody who watched my video that went live Wednesday on the PSA return, I kind of teased this at the end of it. And anybody who's been following Nick and I's podcast, we typically would have posted this Thursday, but we'll be posting next Tuesday. This video should be going live on Friday, and so 4 days later on Tuesday, you should get our next podcast episode. So with that stuff out of the way, I will, for anyone who just wants to get into certain parts of the video, I will leave chapters in the video description. But to open this up, I've done a bit of an intro so far. I will go over for the first half of this video, this spreadsheet. And what this spreadsheet contains is a lot of information. You can see right here, I bought a 1999 complete base set first edition Pokemon card set. Most are PSA 8, 9, and 10. I paid $24,400. And a frequent question that I get or that I see asked on Verbank or E4, Instagram, wherever, some people ask, well, when you buy a collection, how do you determine what price you'll pay? This one was a fairly easy one compared to raw collections. Raw collections, you need to take into account grading prices, grading turnaround times, however long the turnaround time, especially now with bulk being a year or two plus, or with PSA not even being accessible, you need to consider, well, what are the price changes going to be over that time as well? So I'll really get into kind of the meat of how I go about determining what I'm going to bid, what kind of profit margins I'm looking for on this easier PSA graded collection. Second part of this video, I'm actually going to leave face cam and I'm going to leave this spreadsheet, and we'll go to the overhead view as I do for my PSA return videos. I'm going to show you all 102 cards. I think that this kind of set is interesting enough that I won't skip anything. There are a few things I will spend more time on specifically. I don't really want to spoil them up front, but there will be chapters that kind of draw you to the more interesting parts, I guess. And I will ask that I'll have kind of a question for the audience too that I'll be interested to hear your answers on later on. A bit, I guess, multiple questions. Some of it being strategy-wise, how I should go about selling this collection, and another part being what you'd like to see in a follow-up video, if you'd like to see a follow-up video at all. So with all that said, I think I will get into it. I'm glancing over here at my notes, sorry. So anyways, as I said, I mean, you can see the date here, July 8th. I'm recording this on the 12th. It'll be going live on, sorry, I'm recording this on the 13th. It should be going live on the 16th. So a pretty fresh buy. I mean, I just bought it by the time you see this, not much over a week ago. And it was delivered to me today, the day that I recorded it. So down the left side, you'll see the familiar set list, base set, 1 to 102. A lot of people are familiar, base set first edition, there's the 2 Pikachu variants, so a lot of people will sell a 103 card set. I only got a 102 card set, but thankfully it included the Red Cheeks version of the Pikachu, which you can see right here. One of his listing photos actually intelligently showed the 2 big hitters. I mean, the 2 single highest priced items in this lot were the Charizard and the Pikachu. So one thing I'll kind of discuss throughout the video is kind of a listing strategy. If I were to have sold this when I do sell this lot, what I will do and what I won't do. So the seller including a listing or a specific photo showing the 2 highest value cards, that's a big plus. They did not include back photos. That's kind of a minus. I will say that anyone who wants to go, they can clearly search up this listing and it's recent enough that it'll show up. There were only 3 photos. This photo shown, which shows just about every non-hollow card, a photo of the 16 hollows, and then this one. Always use your full 12 photos for a lot of this size and this value. So when I saw the listing come up, it was an auction. I knew that I was going to bid on it. There was none of that reserve nonsense. It was priced 99-cent true auction, and it was going to sell. So first thing I did was open up a spreadsheet. And generally what I do, everyone will know the bulk of the value is right in the hollows. And then after that, the starters, especially the Pikachu being a PSA 10. So I didn't go through and list out all 102 cards and their grades, last sold, low list, and then what I'm going to list it for. This is something that I did solely for the purpose and the benefit of this video, just to fully give you the extensive, kind of the full picture of it. So what I would have done before I bid, because I didn't know if I was going to win and I didn't know if it was worth all this effort, I listed out maybe the 20 highest hitters, say the 16 hollows, and then the 4 starters, including Pikachu. So the 2 numbers that are always the most interest to me, and I think the most relevant when you're trying to value a collection, are the last sold price and the lowest listed price. So those are my first 2 columns here. Generally speaking, the last sold will be lower than the lowest list. The only time that might be a difference, and we are in kind of a downturn, especially for this set specifically in these grades. But in most cases here, especially with all the hollows, you'll see most people who are newly selling an item, they want to get higher than the last one sold. Most buyers obviously will want to be paying lower than the last one sold, but there's a balance there. And with the non-hollows, you might see a bit more frequently that the last sold was higher than the lowest list because those might be going down still. I think, I'm not going to say the bottom's in, but I think that certain cards in the coming months and through the remainder of this year, hollows specifically, especially in the higher grades, I think that some of them might be overreacting to the low side, and I do think that there's opportunity there. The specific reason that I bought this lot is because it came at such a discount to today's pricing. I'm not really banking on where these cards are headed. I just saw an opportunity of somebody sold a 102 card set all at once. That's very difficult for most people to buy. I guess I'll kind of get into the negatives of selling this way for the seller. For me, it worked out well, but there are issues selling so many cards at once. Actually, I have some notes down here. I'll get down to the notes, but yeah, so I went through and I did last sold low list, and I figured what I was going to list them for. I can't really show you only, I guess if I look at the hollows alone, so the sum is 25,000 of the last sold, which is less than I paid. I mean, it's 24.6. The lowest listed of all the hollows. So if I wanted to go in and just list the hollows alone, forgetting about all the non-hollows from this lot, I'm already listing at 33,000 to be the lowest price on eBay. I mean, that's already almost, assuming everything would sell, which is a big assumption, that's already almost into the profit there. So you can see that with 80 something cards remaining after the hollows, there's a fair potential for profit on this lot, especially when a multi-$1,000 card isn't even being considered. So yeah, I guess I'll go down to the bottom to get you the totals, which again, I placed my bid. I'll let you know right now. I won it for 24.4. This was through a best offer. On the initial auction, I determined my max bid to be 25,000. I never bid round numbers, so I ended up actually bidding 26,600. It's not substantially more than 25,000. 25,000 is kind of a round number that a lot of people would go to. I just wanted to be able to beat out anybody who was bidding round numbers. And on the first pass, unfortunately, I lost. I think the winning bid was one increment above mine, and then they ended up not paying. So that was kind of an interesting thing there. And that's a little something that I'll discuss in a little bit as well. But I'm sorry, this video I'll probably be kind of rambling in so many different directions. There's just a lot on my mind, a lot I want to cover, and I apologize for the scattered conversation here. But anyways, after I won it, after I ended up having the seller reach back out to me, hey, the highest bidder didn't pay, my natural thinking was shill bidding potentially. There's always that potential. At the end of the day, I put in a bid for what I was willing to pay. Shill bidding or not, I knew that there was room for me to profit at that price. So you can get mad about the potential for shill bidding. You can do all your detective work. You can determine this guy might have shill bid it. I don't want to touch it, and that's fine. Where I stood on this was there was so much opportunity for profit. What I said was, hey, your high bidder bid me up to my last dollar. They didn't pay, so it wasn't a real bid. I said that I will not match my high bid of 26,600. I said I will beat the third highest bid. My limited amount of detective work seemed that was a real bidder, and they bid 24.4. So I said I'll match, or maybe they bid 24.3 and I beat it by $100. But whatever the case, I ended up taking the opportunity to get this lot because in the meantime of him reaching out to me and re-offering it, I kind of did, I intended to do a YouTube video if I purchased it. So then I did go through and not just getting my initial bid out to 26.6. I said, let me get down to the real nitty gritty and determine exactly what the last solds would have achieved, exactly what the lowest list prices are currently. And the third column here is my list price. So setting my list price, you can see, generally speaking, I beat the low list by a fair margin generally, but I also went above last sold. There will be certain circumstances where, like this card is an interesting one, Zapdos actually. The last sold was $960 and the lowest list is $700. So that's one that is a bit atypical in that the current lowest listing is fairly substantially, 20% cheaper than the last sold. And my list pricing, actually, you can see here, most of my listings, I will be the lowest price on eBay, but certain cards, a PSA 8, Hollow Zapdos, if I've got to hang on to that, I'm fine hanging on to that. So 90% of the cards will be priced lowest on eBay to just flip them. Certain cards I might hang on to, list them a little bit higher to start off and go from there. But yeah, you can see that I was quite motivated to pick this lot up at $24,400 because the entire list price of what I came up with that I'm going to be listing these at to be competitive, to either be the absolute lowest on eBay or to be close. My complete listed price, the sum of it will be about $45,000. And I went through and I did 12.35% fee, and then $4 for shipping the cheap cards. I did 10 or 20 bucks for shipping the expensive cards. So after fees, this is fully counting all of the eBay managed payment fees, all of the shipping fees. If everything were to sell instantly, which clearly will not be the case, but if everything that I list were to sell instantly and I were to just ship them all out, no issues, no problems, I would actually net $38,700 at the prices I'm going to be listing at. I paid $24,400. One thing I can't advocate for enough is having a good, I have the Citi Double Cash, having a good rewards credit card. When you buy and instantly pay off, I would never advocate for people to put things on a credit card and carry a balance. I think my credit card has a 20-something% interest rate. I've never carried a balance on it. I solely have it for the reward because the way that the 2% reward worked out for me, that's an instant $488 discount. That's just an additional $488 profit into my pocket on this lot when I'm done. So if all goes well and everything sells, I will net a $14,800 profit. I think that's relatively reasonable to expect for a couple of reasons. One, if you really go line by line and you look at my list pricing, it's all quite competitive. But I mentioned earlier in the video that I do intend to do a follow-up video. I kind of want to, whether it's 1 month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, I want to go back through and as every item sells, I want to have a new column here, sold price, and just completely figure out to the cent exactly how much I make on this lot. I think it would be really interesting to revisit. Maybe throughout the summer, base continues to tank. PWCC has some hefty lots coming up in July and August. Maybe everything tanks 50 to 75% more and I lose money. And if I do, I'll show you. I will show all the real numbers. I'll fully be transparent on everything. I think it'll be really make for an interesting mini series. But personally, I don't see that being a thing. I don't see that being too likely of a scenario. And obviously, given the expected net profit here, there's a fair bit of room for things could fall a decent amount and I could still stand to make money. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Kind of one of the next rows that I already showed you a bit. One interesting metric will be, well, how much money does this work out to making per hour once I'm done selling everything? So I spend a lot of time searching eBay, a little bit every day, scrolling through it, a lot of times on lunch or on break, before I go to bed. It's not time I'd be being too productive anyways, but I like to account for it. When you spend an hour or two searching eBay every day, how much of that do you apply specifically to one lot that you won? It's impossible to know exactly. The day that I found this, I might have only spent 10 minutes searching eBay and I found this. So then I went out and I priced it out for my max bid and I fully priced it out for this video. and then I'll do all the photographing, the listing, and then fulfilling orders. So what I came up with was 2 hours for searching eBay, half an hour to do that initial, okay, I'm going to bid 26.6 on this. 2 hours further to do this full spreadsheet and fully figure out this is what I'm going to list every single card for. Historically, I've done the math on it before, and it's relatively close to about 1 minute a card to get them photographed. The way that I do it, that's rounding up. I mean, I can do probably closer to 2 cards per minute, but I guess rounding up fairly hefty just to be safe. So 102 cards, say that it's a minute a card, rounded up to 2 hours. Same thing goes for the listing. Once you get, they're all the same set. Most of them are PSA 9s, so I'll go through and I'll list all the 9s, then I'll list the 10s, the 8s. If you list like multiples of the same grade, same set in a row, you really are just changing the title and the pricing, and it goes relatively quick. So a minute to photograph each, a minute to list each. And then again, historically, I mean, I've packaged and sold more than 10,000 items, about 2 minutes an item. Any given week, I might have 30 orders a ship. Takes me an hour or 2 hours, or yeah, an hour, say 2 minutes an item. So these are just ballpark estimates, what I came up with for the entire duration. And if I make another YouTube video, I might spend another 2 hours making another YouTube video. So that's not really factored in here. But if all goes well again, and I sell everything instantly for the prices that I list it, I would make north of $1,000 an hour. That's a crazy amount of money. Clearly, one thing I wanted to touch on, and I've got some notes down here. The first note you'll see is, for the person who sold this, I think from one perspective, they made out well in that all their risk is gone. If the market were to tank, they're not subject to it anymore. They found, not to pump myself up here, but they found a good buyer. I paid in full within the day that I won it. I didn't screw them around. I'll get into it later in the video, but there are some issues with some of the cards that I'm going to fully shoulder and just completely remove them from. So there's something to be said about getting cash up front and just having all your risk removed and having that payday, not having to do any of the work. But in my opinion, if I were that seller, or if I were an average collector, average seller who was trying to move this lot, or if I were making a recommendation to any of my viewers, I would always say, instead of selling all these cards in one lot, one go, send them to PWCC or sell them by yourself individually. I know that, again, 12 and a half hours. Maybe you don't have the 12 and a half hours to do it, then I'd say go PWCC. If you do have the 12 and a half hours to do it, list them individually. It's going to be more work, but clearly, if it all works out how I think it might, you stand to make potentially an extra $14,000 for your time and effort. So another consideration is the seller shipped to me one box. If that one box were to get lost, they would lose all their money. They did not fully insure it. They sent it priority mail USPS. It made it to me fine, so it was all okay. But had there been an issue, they had literally all their eggs in one basket. If that basket were to get lost or destroyed, they would have lost all their money. So selling cards individually, in a way, there's a bit more risk. You're going to have at least one issue, just because 102 transactions, one issue is likely. But just statistically speaking, that complete loss scenario isn't reasonable. You're not going to have all 102 transactions go wrong. So selling individually, yeah, you might have an issue. You're much more likely to have one or two issues, but it's not going to be destroying your whole basket. It's not going to be a total loss scenario if and when that happens. So another note that I had, yeah, so 102 card set, it's all the same set. So when you sell a PSA 10 Red Cheeks Pikachu, you can hit so many different people. You can hit people that aren't even Pokemon collectors. You can hit sports card investors who just want to diversify and get a little exposure to Pokemon. I think that was a big thing late last year. This card went up into the near 5 figures, I think, and it's back down into the, let's see what I put for my listing price. I put $5,500. Last sold was $3,500, but the low list is $6,500. Interestingly, the last sold was $3,500 at PWCC. I think in the same block there was also one that sold for $5,000. So I listed a little over $5,000. But yeah, so I was mentioning when you sell individual cards, you can hit a species collector or you can hit a full set collector. You can hit someone who's not even really a Pokemon collector, just wants the one card, whatever the case may be. Each individual card has a massive buyer pool comparatively to only a subset of people who would want any individual card would want all the cards. And then when you've got all the cards, but they're in different grades, I mean, you've got a Chansey 6 here, you've got a Ninetales 8 and a 5. I hate 8.5 grades. You've got 7s, you've got 10s, you've got 8s. So you're really, every bit of like uniqueness, everything due to the size of this, you're taking away that many potential people from your buyer pool, and you're just making it that much more likely that only guys like me who intend to part out the set are interested in buying it. So, I mean, another consideration too, there might be people who want every single card in this set and are fine having mixed grades, but how many of them have $25,000 to drop all at once? I mean, you're really limiting your buyer pool when you sell so many cards at once. I think in the way that this is, you'll see in the video, you might have noticed from this picture. Actually, no, I guess the Charizard isn't sequential. I think a lot of these are sequential though. I actually thought the whole set was sequential, but maybe not. Maybe just the non-hollows are sequential and the hollows are sequential. But let's go back down to my notes here. Yeah, few people have the 25,000 to spend all at once. I mentioned earlier in the video, I lost the bid initially. The seller reached out to me a few days later, and I offered to go to the third highest bid, not to max my highest bid in case it was a shill bid. I've seen people, this might be a bit poorly received by some people, but I see people doing a lot of detective work, and some of it's very shoddy detective work. I know shill bidding is a thing, and this very may well have been shill bid. It's really impossible to tell. You can go and you can look at how many feedback the winner has, the percent bid activity with a seller. You can look at the amount of bids. I've seen some people though, oh, there's 50 bids on this. It can't be legitimate. That's string bidding. That's shill bidding. It all depends on how many people throw in that low bid early so that they can check it out later and then throw in the real bid. I mean, I use bidding a lot of times just to add things instead of adding them to my watch list. I think eBay gives you better and more frequent updates through your app, like push notifications, when you're actually a bidder on the item. So a lot of times, instead of watching an item, I'll just throw a bid on it. I don't know how many people do that, but and then say I throw down a $20,000 bid. Hey, I know this is worth at least 20. I'll get to it later to find out my max bid, which is actually what I did in this instance. I think I threw down a $15,000 bid or so. If two people do that really early, then you're going to naturally have less bids overall. Whereas if more people just throw out, oh, $50, $100, $500, well, you might have two situations where, well, one has 50 total bids, one has 5 total bids. That doesn't really mean much at the end of the day to whether or not it was shill bid. So I think a lot of the same thing goes for percent bid activity with a seller. There are guys out there that use eBay very infrequently. This thing pops up. This might be the only thing they bid on for 3 months. Look at the price of it. I mean, some people might they might be a new account. You can't really go by how much feedback they've had. I mean, I've made 5-figure sales to accounts with 0 feedback with 100% bid activity with me. and they were legitimate buys, fully paid, left positive feedback, no issues. So there's just there's so many things that make the likelihood slightly higher that shill bidding happened. But at the end of the day, you can never fully know. And again, as I mentioned earlier, kind of ranting and rambling here, but I bid a price that left room for substantial profit. Shill bid or not, I was happy paying it, so I paid it. Yeah, and I mentioned here, shill bid detectives. I did a lot of back and forth messaging with the seller, and they seemed like a real honest person. I mean, it's hard. Maybe I got played. It's hard to know that from messages, but the seller did seem really honest. They seemed to have a real story as to what was going on. And I mean, shill bidding, I think a lot of people take it to mean the seller of the item went in and bid up their own item. Shill bidding can also mean, I mean, there could have been people out there with a PSA 8 first edition Charizard, with a PSA 10 Red Cheeks Pikachu. There could have been people who don't even own these cards, who just want them to be worth more. People who own some of these cards here who don't want the market to look like it's crashing. So shill bidding could have been a thing too, completely unassociated with the seller. There's just so many angles, and at the end of the day, instead of losing sleep over it, instead of going crazy over it, I just happy with the price I paid it. If it came up, that one question, one kind of exercise you can do with yourself. If this lot came up, everything else aside, if this lot came up as a buy it now listing, no best offer, just buy it now, you saw it the second it was listed for $24,400, would you have bought it or not? I would have bought it, not in a heartbeat, because I would have had to figure out, but within 2 minutes, I would have realized, oh man, I'm buying this. And I would have clicked buy now and been done. So that's kind of a quick exercise to how much heartache do you want to have over what may or may not have happened with the with the listing. My last note here. So I kind of talked about how I determined my list price. Lower than the lowest, generally a little bit higher than last sold. And I have a note here, no best offers on 90% of items. In my experience, best offers just lead to a lot of time wasting, especially when you're looking at some of these lower cards. I mean, Clefairy Doll, last sold was 110, low list is 100. I'm going to list mine for $95.99. Buy it now. No best offer, no nothing, just you either buy it or you don't. One thing I intend to do is kind of dependent on when I want to do the follow-up video, just get a feel for how quick these things are selling. But if in a week or two, it seems like these aren't selling that quick, or I'm not happy, I want to move things quicker, say the PWCC block performs very poorly, one thing I might do is I might actually send some of these to auction myself. I would likely auction it on my own page. I could also submit them to the August PWCC. Kind of a lot of opportunities here for what I might do. But another feature that I love is the ability for me as a seller, everyone who watches the listing, everyone who adds it to their watch list, I can send them an offer of, hey, here's 10% off if you buy it now. And say that I list this Alakazam, $999.99. It gets 10 watchers in the first week, but nobody buys it. Well, if I click the button to send an offer to all interested buyers, it'll send out a message to them, hey, one-time offer, 24 hours from the seller, 24 or 48. You can buy this for 10% off. Everyone else, 9 other people that are watching this got this offer. So buy it or don't buy it, but you might lose it if you don't. So 10%, 15%, clearly I've got room. I mean, say I were to send 15% off. Yeah, that should, because the fees would be proportional. So say I were to, it would work out a little weird with like shipping wouldn't go down by that percentage, but roughly speaking, I mean, I'd still stand. I mean, I could send a 25% off offer if I wanted, and I'd still stand to make out extremely well on the lot. So that's, instead of going the buy now or best offer route, just to save myself some headaches, save myself some excessive offers and messages, and having to just to determine the auto decline on each listing. I'll just do buy it now straight up and send out offers if I want to down the line. The only cards that might be exceptions, the biggest hitters, so like Blastoise, Charizard, maybe Mewtwo, Venusaur, and then the Red Cheeks Pikachu. I might either come down I might either list this at like $11,799 to match the last sold, and just try to like move it quick. I mean, this single card alone would recoup almost half of my outlay on this lot. So that's a potential too. I might do $12,799 or best offer, or I might just go, hey, let me price this aggressively, $11,750, $11,800, buy it now, no best offer. So a little bit of maybe 5 to 10 listings might have best offer, but we'll see. I think that covers, I don't know how long I've been going now, but probably over 20 minutes already. I think that covers everything I wanted to touch on a spreadsheet side. So for anyone who wants to see it, I will soon cut to the overhead view where I will go through every card, and fairly early on in that I'll say it now, the Charizard is damaged. Fairly big thing. Potential PSA Financial Guarantee. I will yield to your. I'd love to get some feedback on what you guys think. Anyone who sticks out the video, anyone who uses the chapters to jump ahead. But when you check out this Charizard with me, let me know what you think. Do you think it is a PSA 8? You can see nothing really going on too suspicious in this photo, but once you see it in hand, there's something that stands out, and I guess we'll get right to it. So I'll see you overhead.